Welcome back, everyone. Well, let's face it, it's not often that any community, any city, any town, any village goes through a change in government that fundamentally changes the way that government operates for the community. Well, we happen to be facing that in Saratoga Springs, as you know. And if you've been watching the program at all, you know that we have a lot of very passionate people, a lot of very intelligent people talking about this issue so that myself and you can make an informed decision when November rolls around to decide whether or not we want to change this form of government. Well, this week, an important document was released. It was a fiscal analysis document for the recommended change in government from the City Charter Commission. And it's subject to some conversation. So we called Michele, we called John, and said, we're seeing there may be some discrepancies in the numbers that are presented. Would you be willing to come in and just give us your look at this part of the process? So Michele Madigan, of course, is Commissioner of Finance, Saratoga Springs. John Franck, is Commissioner of Accounts, Saratoga. Thank you both for taking time coming in today to talk about this. Big numbers being tossed around. Ladies first, Michele. $568,000 in savings. Whoa!
That's a lot to come out and state, especially since what they're calling for in a savings is actually still included in their proposed charter. So, they're calling for in their fiscal analysis a removal of 5 deputies, basically department managers across the board, but those managers are actually, as deputies, called for in their actual charter. So I would say that the fiscal analysis does not adequately represent the proposed charter that they are putting forward for the voters to vote on in about 45 days.
Well, you know what? You said that so casually, but that's probably a turning point in a lot of people's decisions. Are these numbers real? Are they realistic or not? Now, they're stating that they are. To your point about the deputies, they're saying that those deputy positions are at the discretion of the city manager. So that, to me, suggests that I'm not exactly certain that those numbers should be included, because if it is at the discretion of the city manager, suppose that person decides to stay. But you know what, John? This leads me to something else. You can talk all day long. I'm an entrepreneur. I own my own company. Everybody here has a role to play. Could they be replaced? Yes, they could be replaced, but could they just be done away with?
I don't believe so. If you believe what was brought forth by Mr. Altameri through the Charter Review Commission, what he's telling you is they're going to get rid of 18,000 working hours between the deputies, which is about 10,000 hours, and another 8,000 hours with the rest of us, the elected officials, and replace them with no one. That this one city manager is going to work 2,000 hours a year is going to be able to do all these positions. So it just doesn't make any sense. If Mr. Altameri is going to come forward and say, well, we're going to be able to give the jobs to other people that are currently there, that won't work. But if it did work under civil service law, you would have to change the job descriptions. You would have to get union acceptance. And while doing that, you're going to have to pay those people. And if you're just going to have a city manager and nobody else hired, what happens if the city manager gets sick or dies or quits? How's the city run under this new form of government? Yeah. So it's clear that, my mom always said there's 100 questions on the test, 99 of the answers are money. And it's just clear to me that at the end of the day, I liked her too a lot. But at the end of the day, this can't be done. It's, a couple thousand hours, I can see it, but not 16,000 hours.
Let's dig into this just a little bit. John and Michele and I were talking about this before this interview, and we're actually adding up the hours, and it came to a staggering number of like 18,000 hours.
Sure.
Just very, very basic. Obviously, I'm not an accountant, but someone hired to do 2,000 hours worth of work, trying to absorb 18,000 hours of work. I know that's really basic, but doesn't it come down to some simple math sometimes?
It's really simple math. I mean, like Bill Belichick couldn't turn this around to do something as the greatest probably manager or coach on earth. It just can't be done. And it can't be done with civil service law, like I said. So I think it's a little disingenuous. It's just not going to work. The Achilles heel, and this is my third one of going through this, is always the financial. Because people, they vote with their pocketbook. So we have to say, bam, there's going to be this great savings. Everything's going to be good. You're going to lose 20 pounds. It's going to be sunny every day. The fact of the matter is, like anything, if you're going to retool a company, you have to put money up forward. Now, long term, it may payoff, and I'm not disputing that. But there's no transition costs either on this. There's just, these numbers are off.
Well, you know what, John? I'm going to get to the transition thing in a second. But Michele, I'm going to go to your department. You know, Michele's responsibilities, Commissioner of Finance, are very, very extensive. You have deputies working for you. They're working on the budget.
Yes.
Well, if they're not there and you're not there, who's doing the budget?
There is nobody who has been identified to work on the budget under this proposed charter. They say the city manager will be responsible for the budget. Now, I have a single resource, which is my deputy. Our primary responsibility under the charter is the city finances and the city budget. So this has not been identified. Again, this is one of the examples that Commissioner Franck is using. The city manager will magically assume the time it takes to put out the city budget and manage the day-to-day finances that come with managing the budget once it's adopted.
Well, you know, then you just move to other departments like public safety, and you just think to yourself, at least when I come to work early in the morning, there are people on the roadways already, everything else. They all need to be supervised. They all need to be managed. Priorities need to be set, all of these kinds of things. Now, I know there's a lot more to this topic, but I'm just raising some of the issues that I've been thinking about this week as I'm listening to both sides sort of explain this. But you know what, John, to your point, everybody votes with their pocket. So it is very, and I'm not saying that they're being frivolous in the numbers that they're tossing out there, but these are big numbers, and they're numbers that catch the attention of the voters.
Sure.
So look, in the weeks to come, we're going to delve into this a lot more, find out if we're missing something here, if there's something else to be discussed, and allow the conversation to rise. The one last thing I want to do before we go is that in the budget that was, in the fiscal report that was presented, were there any transition costs?
No.
None.
None. We are looking for a more reality-based fiscal analysis to go along with this proposed charter.
Okay.
No transition costs at all were identified.
All right. Well, that's a great way to end this interview. No transition costs and some questions about whether or not the proposed savings are realistic or not. Good. That's the next thing we're going to talk about next week. John, thanks for taking the time to come in. Michele, great to see you as always. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.
To see this interview again, you can head to our website, looktvonline.com.